Hey, it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today, focusing in on the experience of the narcissistic fog. Fog basically representing the fear, obligation, and guilt that the narcissist will create in your environment, that in essence creates an unawareness of exactly what is going on. Just like when you're in the fog, if you're down at the harbor, if you're down by the sea, or you're out in a field at dawn and there's a fog that's hovering on the plains, there's a fog that is covering up the street and you can't really see, you lose track of spatial relationship. You have a sense of fear and anxiety. You don't know what's coming at the other direction. That is the experience of being in a fog, or perhaps you've been at the top of a mountain and been swallowed up essentially by a big, large cloud that basically feels like, it's a fog in essence. So I'm sure everywhere, everyone has been and experienced some degree of fog to one degree or another. Now, the narcissist and the psychopath tends to create this same experience or atmosphere of fog, and they create this fog, this sort of haziness, this zombie-like atmosphere where you essentially feel out of control, but yet you consistently need to be the primary giving one to bring light into that fog. And the fog is an experience of overwhelm. It is a feeling of anxiety that is perpetuated and caused from three key manipulation tactics that the narcissist or psychopath will ensnare one in to keep you in this state of ambiguity, fear, obligation, concern, uncertainty, despair, feeling like you're less than, feeling like you're shamed. In essence, keeping you deluded, deceived, keeping you gaslighted, brainwashed, all those uncomfortable states. I mean, if you've ever had a recipe with 23 ingredients in it, that is how very complicated the experience of the narcissistic fog can feel. There's so much going on there. There are so many different emotions. There are so many different tactics. There's reality question. There's he said, she said. There is superior, inferior. There's so much going on, and it creates this unawareness. And people experience this at various different levels and at different times and different stages in the relationship. And at some point, when the pain is great enough, one begins to try to emerge from the fog. They try to get a glimpse of some sort of common sense, some sort of light, some sort of understanding, some sort of peace and harmony that is able to put together the disparaging parts, the pieces, and make sense of why this is occurring. And when I say the pain is great enough, usually it's when somebody says, this is it. I have had enough. I am done. I am so done with this. And essentially, the feeling of being crazy or driven crazy through confusion. And, it's really interesting because the feeling of not knowing, that sort of questioning of oneself, not having a sense of clarity and a sense of happiness and a sense of oneness and being all right with one's environment and feeling okay with your destiny, feeling okay with where you're going in life, feeling happy. All these natural human experiences which the fog will keep you separated from. It's very important to realize that in healing through this, that the awareness, that feeling that the pain is great enough and no more. This has got to stop. This is I'm at my rock bottom. I've had enough rock bottoms. I'm not going any further down. This is it. I've had it. Usually there comes some brink, some precipice that arrives at that declaration for yourself. And oftentimes it's really when you do realize how serious and how severe and how devastating, you realize you're not just playing with a typical family spat. You're actually at odds with something much more destructive, destroying, and really capable of creating huge ramifications that really require a lot of study and processing to move through successfully. So when we talk about emerging from the fog, it's really an awareness. Please remember that the narcissist has really 2 to 3 primary objectives, and that is to control, and that is to control you, to control people, to control situations, to control your perspective, to control your reactions, to control your feelings, control your experience. Now, when you really understand that, how grave and how strange and how bizarre that really is, it really is a phenomenon, because why would somebody really want to control you? What delight would there be? What pleasure? Well, it's because there's a pathology in the narcissist that derives great pleasure accomplishment by causing having a control over another person. In natural, healthy relationships, there's a dynamic of pleasure, of back and forth, and kind of being able to be on level. You challenge each other, but it's not one trying to control the other. There's a sense of one participating with the other. In other words, you don't give up all of your identity and react to this other entity, and we're just going to call it an entity, because really the narcissist, even despite the fact that they look like this human being, there's really something else quite serious, severe, and I'm just going to say the word demonic. It has many different, I'm not referring in a religious sense, but I'm meaning an absence of love, an absence of happiness, an absence of joy and bliss and connection and healthiness and all the really positive experiences that really life is about. So realizing that the narcissist is using fear to control you, obligation to control you, meaning really that they're taking over your perspective and your position by forcing an obligation and creating a false accusation that basically uses leverage to have you act in situations rather than you having the ability to act of your own accord. They're going to seek to use these various very consistent tactics of obligation and then of guilt. So this creates this sort of feeling of being unaware, or being sort of disoriented, and realize that this is nothing but a manipulation tactic from a narcissist, covert, overt, or a psychopathic individual who seeks to have this impact on you and seeks to have power over you in this effect, and also really with the end intent of hurting you. So it's not, I'm trying to control you to help guide you and instruct you and educate you, which is, a form of education, and you're helping bring about awareness in people. That is education, that is impact, that is influence. It is not, it's personal empowerment is a B state. When you seek to control people and have power over them, think of the old rulers back in the Confucius dynasty, where in essence, it was, starve the people. Don't give them food, don't give them nutrition, so they couldn't think and act for themselves. So, this has been going on for some time in many different cultures and many different environments, and it's a very sort of barbaric, low-level sort of personality type that is becoming more and more refined in this information age. And realize also that the narcissist will refine these tactics with time. So when we talk about these qualities getting worse, more rigid, more impenetrable, it's because the narcissist is really refining these. Because they have such a heightened superior sense of self, feeling it's selfishness to a sick degree, to a pathological degree. It's pathological self-interest, and it's not just like, oh, that's an egomaniac. It's really more profound and very, very quite serious, because really the way and means at which they're going to try to fulfill this objective is really to try to overtake people through power, through control, really with the end result of hurting them, and through all the myriad, experiences of the smear campaigns, etc. And realize that, you need to step out of that circle. You need to step out of their tactics and really become immune to it. When I talk about personal empowerment and owning dominion over your own body, you also have dominion over your own perceptions, your own values, and you need to really plug into these and unplug from all the various bantering, chaos, and hectic commotion and drama, free-for-all that the narcissist is going to ensue and engage in, because their tactics will be very calculated and designed to throw you off of your agenda. And when your agenda is enjoyment, happiness, living your life, basic experiences, they're going to try to get at any little sort of bit that they can to try to knock you away from accomplishing those, because it is just how they operate. We can ask why all day long, but I want you to realize that the narcissist derives pleasure from this, just like you might derive pleasure from a good meal, or a good wine, or a good beer, or a nice walk. The narcissist the psychopath derives pleasure from this experience of really causing reaction, negative, suffering in all its various and sundry ways, financial, emotional, psychological, spiritual. That is really, until they can get you down and dysfunctional, they will then feel like their job is done. So realize this to be the case, and realize that separating, establishing your boundaries by really, knowing that you are whole in integrity and you have the right to just as much of the floor space as this person. And of course, I advocate no contact whatsoever. And if realize if you're emerging through this, or you have to have contact with them, realize that it's very important to contact your own internal state. By your own internal state, I really want you to understand that healing very much is an inner game. An inner game meaning that it's really becoming with the awareness and plugging in and using all the tools that we describe here on the channel, but that your internal state of happiness is a B state. It is something, it is a sense of acceptance, it is a sense of surrender, it is a sense of being in tune with your purpose, and embracing what you love about life, to the declaration that is immune from that narcissistic abuse. So that happiness, that acceptance, that knowing, that peace, that awareness, that knowing, when you can finally arrive at that knowing, that you see this person clearly for how they are, all their various tactics, imagining them that, control is as important to them as breathing, having power over you as important to them as water, and that they will resort to anything to perpetuate that sort of control and distraction of you. Once you realize this, you can really see them for what they are, and then step outside of that track. So if you imagine them almost like a merry-go-round, that they're just going to go around and around in these sort of tactics, step off. Do not get on the merry-go-round. Do not enter into their antics, their cycle. Just step back. Even like physically step back, emotionally step back. This is going to take practice. I know it's difficult, but it will come with time, and eventually it'll come to a point where it's like, aha, I get it, I did it. So it's going to take some practice, and it's going to take some review. But once you're really able to detach, and you're able to see this, and then not flinch, not react, not have an emotional reaction in your body, not have a psychological reaction in your mind that is reacting to them, but one is more of observation, you're able to then get in touch with your own emotion and then experience some emotional mastery. This is so very important, that you learn to access this lever, this sort of conduit inside of you. And you arrive at these through all the various tactics tools here to become immune from these tactics. The recovery notebook, the recovery date, the having a mentor, using the tools of meditation, guided meditation, your affirmations, your vision board, all these various things. You need to actually become quite disciplined. But this is the path of personal growth and development. So really, the main person is it benefits you as well as, you know, your sphere of influence, and gives you a much more authentic and genuine life. And once you're able to do that, you will experience inner peace, inner profound happiness, and you'll really begin to live a much more expansive life that is life as it's meant to be, in awe-inspiring and filled with all the beautiful experiences that you have been really feeling separate from for so many years. It can even be decades. So let's get on with it. Peace and harmony here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.